财团法人黄昆辉教授教育基金会2024教育政策研讨会，因材施教，成就每个孩子，台湾优质教育的愿景与发展策略会议开始。特邀演讲，本场次请佛光山教团系统大学杨朝祥总校长主持。请新加坡南洋理工大学 Prof.Chia Yong 演讲，演讲的主题为 Thriving in a Multimodal World: The Essential Role of Multiliteracies in Empowering Every Child。接下来将时间交给主持人。
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the second day of our conference. Usually, the second day of the conference would not be able to have many participants. But today, I can see this conference room almost full. It means that everybody here are really concerned about educational policy, especially those issues which are related to the development of our educational system and also the development of individual students. Professor黄昆辉Foundation every year select very special topics in educational policy and conduct research first and then follow a conference. It means that the foundation really concerned about the development of the nation, of the society, and also the educational system. This conference invited many participants to join here, and also invite keynote speakers from overseas. And again, I would like to use this opportunity again to express our sincere appreciation for you to travel a long distance to come here to share with us and to let us know what's a new trend in individual learning. 早安，黄昆辉董事长，各位来自国外的贵宾，还有今天与会的各位女士、各位先生，大家早。早。看到各位这么多人还在这里继续努力奋斗，要学习更多，分享更多，我觉得我们台湾的教育是有希望的。现在这个社会跟过去非常不一样，因为呢，科技的发达，社会的进步，让我们教育的体系、教育的教学方法跟学习的方法都有非常大的改变，尤其是 AI 注入我们的学习之后，在未来学生的学习，过去一般性的识读能力已经不足以应付这样多样的社会，所以因此呢，今天我们特别请了Dr. Yong from Singapore， 从新加坡呢来介绍，在这样一个多样性的社会里面，如何协助学生能够学习多样的识读能力，来适应社会，来在这个社会里面发展。我想各位都感受到 AI 的这个威力。那我们Dr. Yong呢他的重点呢是在他的这个专业是在英文的这个 English language and literature。他呢从学习语言跟学习各种不同的技能，到底需要怎么样的新的多样性的识读能力呢？他今天来跟我们做介绍。那我刚刚才知道 AI， 我不知道各位有没有看到前一阵子我们看到呢，拜登用中文演讲，然后呢，他的中文里面有严重的英文腔调，然后呢，我也看到习近平用英文演讲，那当然他的乡音呢，可以从英文里面听得到。我前几天去参加师大的一个研讨会，国际研讨会，有位韩国来的讲者，他说他不要翻译员，然后呢，当我们 用中文演讲的时候，他就拿着他的手机对着这个扩音机，然后呢，他直接就在上面看到这个演讲者的内容。然后他演讲的时候，他呢讲一句，他的这个手机呢就帮他翻译一句。所以在未来，识读的能力可能不再是读写跟算而已，他可能呢必须要配合这个社会的发展而有呢不同的改变。今天呢，他的用呢，他是来自新加坡的 NIE， 他是呢 NIE 的 General Manager， 也是呢这个 Senior Lecturer 在这个 English Language 的 Literature Department 当呢这个 Senior Lecturer， 他呢今天要就这个主题来跟我们分享。另外呢，他在文章里面特别提到，在这样的一个社会里面，学生的学习要改变，老师的能力也必须要改变。So we would like to invite Dr. Wong to make your speech. Thank you very much for your coming. Thank you.
谢谢杨博士，黄董事长，各位来宾，早上好。我是谢志勇。In Singapore, the names are written in like Chinese, so my surname is actually Chia, and my name is Yong in Teochew. In Mandarin is 志勇。So 我来自新加坡国立教育学院。南洋理工大学，我的中文讲得不会很流利，非常抱歉，所以我将用英语和你们交通。Okay, that was a relief. So I'm going to speak in English now. Good morning, Professor黄昆辉, President of the Professor黄昆辉Education Foundation, members of the organizing committee, fellow conference presenters, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alexius Chia, Chinese name Chia Yong, and I come from the National Institute of Education, Nanyang Technological University. First and foremost, I am deeply humbled and grateful for the invitation to speak with you today. It is a privilege to address this distinguished gathering and share my thoughts with you. Thank you for your kindness and generosity. My presentation today is titled Thriving in a Multimodal World. The essential role of multiliteracies in empowering a child. I am honored to be here today to discuss a topic that's becoming increasingly important in education. Multiliteracies and the multimodal world, and the role they play in shaping teaching and learning in the 21st century. I always tell my student teachers that it's 2024, so we are actually 24 years into the 21st century. It's something that has happened since the internet, but something that has not been discussed a lot in school and university curriculum. So we live in a time of profound change, driven largely by advancements in technology. The ways in which we communicate, learn, play, engage with the world are evolving rapidly. So as educators, I feel that it's our responsibility to prepare our students for this very dynamic landscape. But how do we do this? How do we ensure that our students are equipped to thrive in a world that's so different from the one that many of us grew up in? Part of the answer lies in the concept of multiliteracies. No longer is literacy confined to the ability to read and write a text on a page. Literacy today encompasses a wide range of skills and competencies, including the ability to understand, create, and communicate through multiple modes, be they linguistic, visual, spatial, gestural, and auditory. This expanded understanding of literacy is what we refer to as multiliteracies, and is essential for empowering every child to succeed in the 21st century. During this presentation, I will explain the concepts of multiliteracies and multimodality, explore the implications for education, and offer practical strategies for integrating these ideas into our teaching practices. Along the way, I will also consider the unique characteristics of our learners today, the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, and how can we tailor our education approaches to meet their needs. Multiliteracies and multimodality. Well, the term multiliteracies was first introduced by the New London Group in 1996. They are a collective group of scholars who recognized that traditional notions of literacy were no longer sufficient in this rapidly changing world. They argued that literacy should encompass more than just the ability to read and to write on print text. Okay? Instead, literacy should include the ability to engage a wide range of communication forms, texts that integrate different languages, cultural contexts, and multiple modes of communication. Free-Body and Luke, and proud to say that both were my PhD supervisors at one stage, then they left me, define multiliteracies as the flexible and sustainable mastery of a repertoire of practices with texts of traditional and new communication technologies via spoken, print, and multimedia. So let me just unpack this for everyone. Flexible, what does flexible mean? It means that a person is positive and strategically responsive to changing literacies. What we consider literate 50 years ago may not be what is actually literate today. The practices change. So we need to be positive and strategically responsive to these different changes. The other thing is that even if we are positively and strategically responsive, it needs to be sustained. So this sustainable mastery is important because to have the ability to reformulate current knowledge or access and learn new literate practices. So let me illustrate this flexible as well as sustainable mastery with the example of mobile phones. Just a show of hands, how many of you remember, some of you at the back are quite young, so you probably can't remember this. It's probably the people who are sitting in front. Your telephones, okay, we used to dial phones. Do you remember that? Yeah, okay, yeah. The young people went, what? Okay. Then how many of you remembered that telephones were push buttons? Yeah, you remember that? Yeah. And now our new mobile phones, they're not push button, right? They're actually tap and they're swipe, and you swipe. Okay? So this particular example may seem to be a bit trivial because we are fine. I see lots of mobile phones on your tables, but there are many people that are still living today, which include my mother-in-law, that's completely lost. So she lived in the world where phones were push button, and she's unable to do the tap and the swipe anymore. So she insists that my wife buys her the most expensive mobile phone, the new Samsung or the new Apple phone, but she's not able to use it because she's not able to adapt. So this is a simple example of how a lady with a high school education, educated and literate in the 20th century, has become illiterate in the 21st century. She picks up scam calls and she believes that if you transfer $5,000 to the Kingdom of Nigeria, that they're going to give them $500,000. And of course, my wife has to say that in Nigeria it's a republic, you know, it's not a kingdom, but she does not understand that. Yeah? So let's move on. So a repertoire of practices, repertoire of practices means to possess a range of knowledge, skills, and strategies to use when appropriate. So let's go back to the mobile phone again. When you actually receive a message, for example, or you want to do something on your mobile phone, when do you tap? When do you swipe up? When do you swipe down? When do you swipe left? When do you swipe right? And when do you, and I just learned this from my kids, pinch and zoom. Okay? That's something that's completely lost to mother-in-law, because she would say, where's the button? You know, phones were so easy because they had buttons. Now they don't have buttons anymore. So after Nokia stopped its push button handphones, she's now completely lost. And she's in her 80s now. Okay? Now, traditional communication technologies is something that's as important. We're not abandoning that. Ability to use pen and paper to write and to communicate is important. Live face-to-face encounters, I think, is increasingly more challenging for the younger children who tend to text each other, to put things online rather than to actually sit down and talk to each other. They would have like 1,000 friends online, and sometimes they don't even have a single friend that they can actually sit down at recess to talk to. But I think very importantly is this, which is a new communications technologies. Able to use new communication technologies like digital, electronic resources, multiple modes, and we use it often very simultaneously. Okay. So, concept of multiliteracies encompasses multimodal literacy, multilingual, multicultural, critical literacy, and digital literacy. Multiple modal literacy basically means the understanding and using of multiple modes of communication, such as text, sound, gestures. Okay? Multilingual would be the ability to communicate in multiple languages and dialects. Okay? Multicultural literacy is the understanding and navigating diverse cultural contexts and perspectives. Critical literacy would be analyzing and critiquing power relations, social inequalities in communication. And digital literacy is what I just explained, navigating and creating meaning in digital environments. But today's presentation, I will just focus on multimodal literacy. So in today's digital age, the concept of multimodal literacy is not just relevant. I would like to argue that it's essential. The way we communicate has evolved far beyond traditional print text. We now engage with texts that blend words, images, sounds, gestures, creating rich multimodal experiences. So whether navigating multilingual environments or interpreting cultural nuances or critically analyzing digital content, these diverse forms of communication requires us to draw on a complex set of literacies. From creating multimedia presentations to understanding the cultural context of a meme or critically evaluating information on social media, literacies needed today are complex, they are expensive, and they are interconnected. So this shift demands that we as educators broaden our approach to teaching literacy, ensuring that our children are equipped to thrive in a world where communication is dynamic, diverse, and multifaceted. So this brings us to the concept of multimodality. Multimodality refers to the use of multiple modes or channels to communicate. In a multimodal text, different modes such as text, image, sound, gestures work together to create meaning. For example, a news website might combine written articles with videos, infographics, and hyperlinks to convey information. Each of these elements add a layer of meaning and understanding. The message requires the ability to interpret all of them in conjunction. We are actually interpreting it simultaneously. This shift towards a multimodal world has profound implications on education. If we continue to focus solely on traditional literacy skills, that is reading and writing, we run the risk of our students ill-equipped for the demands of modern life. We need to broaden our approach to literacy instruction to include multimodal text in our classrooms, in our curriculum, to teach students how to create and to interpret these texts effectively. By the way, this image was created by AI. I worked on it and had about 10 prompts, and it created this really nice image. So, the impact of multimodality. Now that we have a clearer understanding of multiliteracies and multimodality, let us explore the impact on learning. When we incorporate multiple modes in our teaching, we engage students on a different level. Some might say we are making learning more meaningful and accessible to learners who might, for this generation, actually learn differently. So first, multimodality enhances engagement. Traditional teaching methods that rely heavily on text-based materials can sometimes fail to capture our students' attention. So when we combine, we have a combination of text, images, and videos, and interactive elements, we create a more dynamic learning experience. So for example, if there's a lesson on the solar system, it could include not just the written descriptions, but also videos, diagrams, interactive simulations. And this would likely be more engaging for students. This kind of multimodal approach helps to maintain their interest and motivates them to learn. Second, multimodality promotes accessibility. Not all students learn in the same way. And there was a presentation yesterday about multiple intelligences and different ways in which we learn, for example. So some may struggle with reading, but actually excel in the visual or auditory processing. So by incorporating multiple modes of communication, we can make content more accessible to a wider range of learners, including those with disabilities or certain or different learning preferences. So for instance, a student who finds it difficult to understand a complex scientific concept through just text alone might grasp it more easily through a video demonstration or hands-on experiment. Third, engaging in multimodal text helps to develop critical thinking skills. Multimodal texts are complex. They require students to analyze how different modes work together to convey meaning. So this kind of analysis fosters critical thinking by encouraging students to consider not just what the text says, but how it says it. So for example, when analyzing a news story in English class, students might consider how the combination of written text, images, video clips influences the viewer's understanding and perception of that event. And sometimes I bring in videos from multiple sources as well that sometimes can be contradictory. So finally, multimodal text fosters creativity. When students are given the opportunity to express their ideas through different modes, whether through digital storytelling, video production, or graphic design, they are encouraged to think differently. Okay? And I'm just thinking of Professor Yari's Lebanon's example of teacher training, for example, and how at presentation, a lot of things were actually presented as mind maps rather than just oral presentations. Yeah? So our students can learn to experiment with different forms of communication and find new and innovative ways to express their ideas. So this not only helps them develop a wide range of skills, but also boosts their confidence as learners as well as creators. So just very quickly, profile of our learners. There are probably quite a number of Gen Zs sitting in the room at the back, and the Gen Zs probably are dealing with the Gen Alphas. So what are they? So my thought is that to effectively integrate multiliteracies, multimodality into our teaching practices, I think it's essential to understand the learners we are educating today. So who are the Gen Zs? They are also known as the digital natives. They were born between 1997 and 2012. So in today's context, they will be our high school as well as our university students. The Gen Zs have never known a world without the internet, smartphones, or social media. They are accustomed to accessing information quickly, navigating digital spaces with ease. For Gen Zs, visual and interactive content is an essential part of their lives. They prefer learning experiences that are personalized, collaborative, and tech-driven. They are also highly proficient at multitasking. Sometimes I question whether they achieve everything. They multitask, but they may not achieve anything. Yeah. But that's the old man speaking. Okay. They also often engage with multiple modes of information simultaneously. Okay. Who are the Gen? Also, by the way, this image was also created by another AI as well. It's the 123rf.com. Yeah. Gen Alphas refer to those who are born from 2013 onwards. These will be our elementary or primary school students. And this generation is the first to be born entirely in the 21st century, into a world that's even more saturated with technology compared to the Gen Z predecessors. Gen Alpha students are growing up with artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and other advanced technologies as part of their everyday experiences. So they are highly visual learners who prefer interactive and hands-on learning experiences. So like the Gen Zs, they're comfortable navigating multiple modes of communication and expecting their learning experiences to be engaging and relevant to their lives. And I have basically quoted some research that has actually shown that. Yeah. So, understanding these generational traits is crucial for designing educational experiences that resonate with our students, because both Gen Z and Gen Alpha are accustomed to interacting with multimodal text on a daily basis. Unfortunately, many schools and universities are slow to catch up. As such, they are forced to live in two realities: the reality of school and the reality outside of school. So what we should do is to try to bridge this gap where more aspects of school reflect the realities of their digital lives. If we want to engage these learners effectively, we should consider incorporating tools, technologies. And it doesn't have to be IT, it could be also different modes in which they are familiar with. So how do we integrate multimodality and multiliteracies into our teaching practices? Here are some strategies. First, consider incorporating digital tools into our classroom, if possible. There are countless digital platforms that are available to allow students to create, analyze multimodal text. This could include video editing software, graphic design tools, even social media platforms as well. For example, we could have students create a digital story that incorporates text, image, sound, or we might get them to design an infographic that visually represents a complex concept. So by using these tools, students can develop a wide range of literacies while expressing their creativity. Project-based learning was something that was raised yesterday as well. So this encourages students to engage with multiple modes of communication. Because project-based learning allows our students to work on extended tasks. It requires them to use different modes to create a final product. So for example, students who work in groups to produce a short documentary film on a topic that they're studying in class. Yeah? The project would require them to write a script, film, edit, add sound, music, create visual effects, all of which involve different types of literacies. So project-based learning not only helps students develop multi-literacy skills, they also foster problem-solving skills, collaboration, and critical thinking. Third, interactive lessons that integrate various modes of communication. So this might involve combining text with images, videos, interactive activities in teaching materials. So rather than simply assigning a reading, for example, okay, you could create a lesson that includes a short video introduction, followed by a reading assignment, then an interactive quiz or discussion activity. So by providing content in different modes, we can help students understand material more deeply from different perspectives. Okay, finally, to consider how we assess students' multimodal literacies. Because traditional assessments often solely rely on reading and writing skills. But to truly embrace multiliteracies, we need to develop assessment strategies that recognize and value students' abilities to communicate through multimodal modes. So this might involve evaluating the ability to create and interpret multimodal text, or having digital portfolios for them to showcase their work across different modes. Another example is rather than have students write a traditional essay, you could get them to create a digital presentation that includes text, images as well as video. By assessing their multimodal work, we can gain a more comprehensive understanding of their abilities and also to support their development as literate individuals in a multimodal world. Okay? I'm going to end soon, but at this point I would like to add a caveat about what I just shared, by acknowledging that in a larger education system like Taiwan's, for example, there could still be a divide between urban schools as well as schools in the countryside. So getting access to technology and support might be a challenge. Professor Ling Ming Pi yesterday talked at length about this great divide. In my conversation with my chaperone escort, Mr. Kevin Cheng, okay, he shared that the realities in urban schools are very different from the realities in rural schools. So I think this is something that we need to acknowledge. But I still feel that challenges like these are not insurmountable. In 2020 to 2023, right across COVID, my team and I worked with educators in Cambodia to introduce, because they wanted to have innovation in their teaching and learning. And we realized that the country was very backward in terms of technology. But they had a very high level of mobile phones penetration. Even in the rural schools, about 70 to 80% of the students or families actually own a mobile device. Because this came very cheaply, data plans were cheap. So we told the teacher educators, if you wait for your government to build a Wi-Fi tower, it could take 20 or 30 years. And you will be way behind. Why not make use of mobile phones and bring the technology and lessons and things into the classroom? Because at least 3 or 4 students in even a rural village school actually owns a mobile device. The other thing would be that my point is that it doesn't all have to be IT. Just wanted to show you this. I picked this up at breakfast this morning. I like to read local newspapers. Yeah, so this was a pull out from the Sunday edition of the Taiwan Times. And it's a very interesting article. It's a series of articles called Taiwan in Time. And it basically documents and describes Taiwan before it was Taiwan, different challenges that was faced. And this particular article was about the indigenous Siraya people in the Singkang village. Now it's modern Tainan, and how they were caught between the Dutch colonizers who did not protect them very well, and of course the Japanese invaders as well. So they had to strike the balance between pleasing both sides and then not having the people kidnapped. So what was very interesting about this were actually texts, but also images from the archives and a very ancient map. So in reading it, I didn't quite understand the situation and what we were facing, because I'm thinking, how would the Japanese come? But you realize that the village was actually very near the body of water in which the ships had actually land. So this is not IT, but I think it will make very, very good classroom material for me back in Singapore. Okay, so last bit, I've got 5 minutes left. Teacher professional development. Just very quickly. Implementing these strategies require teachers themselves that are well versed in multiliteracies and multimodality. This is where professional development comes in. Teachers need to keep training to keep up with the rapidly changing digital landscape. This includes learning how to use digital tools, understanding how to create, analyze multimodal text, and develop strategies for integrating these concepts into their teaching. Okay? Professional development should also be collaborative. Teachers can learn a great deal from each other. Sorry. This could take the form of workshops, conferences like this, peer mentoring, online professional learning communities. Okay, finally, teachers should be encouraged to engage in reflective practice. It involves regular reflecting on their teaching practice and then sharing with each other what works and what doesn't work. So, in conclusion, thriving in a multimodal world requires us to expand our understanding of literacies to include multimple modes of communication. By embracing multiliteracies and integrating multimodality into our teaching practices, we can empower every child to succeed in the 21st century. We've explored the importance of understanding our learners, particularly the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, how their characteristics can inform our educational strategies. We also look at practical ways to integrate multimodality, multiliteracies in our classroom, and discuss the importance of professional development for teachers. So for this, I really applaud the foundation because they've actually brought together such a wide range of educators yesterday and today. Yeah. So as we move forward, let us commit to creating learning environments that are inclusive, engaging, and reflective of the diverse and dynamic world that our students inhabit. We have that responsibility to prepare our students to not just survive, but to really just thrive in a world that is increasingly complex and unpredictable. So echoing what Professor Alan Huang and Professor Yari Lebanon impressed upon us yesterday, it really takes a village to raise a child. And it also takes that same village to raise a teacher. So thank you very much.
再次感谢 Prof.Chia Yong 的演讲，我们也谢谢杨总校长的主持。现在请两位与我们的本会黄坤辉董事长到台前一同合影留念。感谢各位教授。好，再次感谢各位教授，谢谢，请回座。